Good morning, everyone. I'm Professor NitinArora, the head of Amity University Reiki Foundation Center for Science of Happiness, and we welcome you all to this wonderful happiness podcast. This happiness podcast is held under the inspiring vision of Dr. Atul Chauhan, our Honorable Chancellor, and the guidance of Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla, our Honorable Vice Chancellor. We are also grateful to Dr. Satyendra Singh Rekhi sir, the founding patron of Amity Center of Happiness. Today, we are reminded of India's legacy in space exploration from Rakesh Sharma, our first Indian going to space, to Kalpana Chawla, to Sunita Williams, and more recently, Sirisha Bandla. Our guest of the session, Andy SADHWANI, joins this pioneering legacy as the Indian origin to join this space mission, or the person who has gone to the space. At Amity University, under the visionary guidance of Dr. Atul Chauhan, we are deeply committed to supporting the dreams of young space enthusiasts. We hope that one day Amity students will also follow the footsteps of our guest of the today and these trailblazers and take on the challenge of becoming the next generation Indian astronauts. Today, we are gathered to hear from an exceptional individual, someone who has dared to reach to the stars and shown us all what is possible when dreams, discipline, and courage come together. It's a privilege to welcome Mr. Andy SADHWANI, Principal Aerospace Engineer and the Indian origin space traveler, a space astronaut, who recently returned from Virgin Galactic's mission to space. Welcome, Mr. Andy, to Amity University Center for Science of Happiness.
Thank you so much, Professor Aurora. We super appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. Thank you to everyone for taking out the time. I know it's exam week. I know it's very, very busy for you. So very much look forward to sharing my experience with you. As you accomplish things, I would love to hear about them. I'm also on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out. And Professor Aurora and I had the opportunity to do a happiness chat a few years ago, and I very much enjoyed it. I told my entire family and friends, and they were very excited for what your university is doing.
Mr. SADHWANI, we would just like to read the profile of yours. So I will request my student, Snehal, to please do the.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to briefly introduce our guest for today, Mr. Anand Andy SADHWANI. A principal aerospace engineer made headlines in June 2024 as a passenger on Virgin Galactic's Galactic 07 mission. With degrees in mechanical and aerospace engineering from Carnegie Mellon University and Stanford University, he has established himself in the aerospace field and continues to contribute to advancements in space technology. His careers in engineering include his tenure as a SpaceX engineer, has been marked by a focus of cutting-edge aerospace projects. His journey on Virgin Galactic 07, which launched from Spaceport America on Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2, reached an altitude of about 54 miles above Earth, offering SADHWANI and his fellow passengers breathtaking views of our planet from the suborbital frontier. His missions mark a pivotal step in the era of commercial space tourism, as it allows participants to experience spaceflight on a personal level and helps Virgin Galactic further its goals on broadening access to space. During his upcoming talk, SADHWANI plans to delve into the personal side of his story and possible mechanics of rocketry, share photos taken from space, and offer insights from his spaceflight experience, along with advice for those who are interested in embarking on their own space journeys. His perspective not only highlights the technical challenges and triumphs of aerospace engineering, but also embodies the human excitement and curiosity that space exploration inspires. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Well, thank you for the introduction. That was the best introduction I've ever heard. Thank you.
Mr. Reddy, on behalf of our Honorable Founder President, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, who is our Honorable Founder President for MIT University, and on behalf of our Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhan, we also welcome you. And we also welcome you on behalf of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Balwinder Shukla, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Now I leave it to you to take over, Mr. Andy, and I think you have presentation to share with the audience to inspire them, and we all are waiting like a small child to get inspired. Thank you. Please, over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, and thank you to the leadership at your university for making this happen. I'll get right into it. So let me go ahead and share my presentation. Okay. Okay, great. So as Professor Arora mentioned, I traveled on Virgin Galactic to space just about 4 months ago. And it was the best day of my life. Now, even though the space flight only took, call it 1 day, it took many, many years of personal preparation for me to, get to this point. And I'll like to, talk about that as well. So a little bit about me. My parents are from India. So my father grew up in Baroda in Gujarat, and my mom grew up in Nagpur in Maharashtra. And they moved to Houston, Texas. My mom did her residency. She's a doctor, and my father was an engineer. So they bought me just toys, not many toys, but they bought me some toys. And then I used to play with them, mainly rockets. And I became very interested in this field. So I had kind of what you can say is an obsession with propulsion and rockets. When I didn't have money, I would work to raise money so I could build little rockets. Sometimes I would make it out of things I would find around the house. Later in life, I became an Eagle Scout. So in the United States, we call that the Scouts. So I attained the highest rank there. And then later, after finishing Carnegie Mellon, I joined Procter & Gamble, and I designed toothbrushes. So this toothbrush that you see over here is something that I had designed when I was an intern at SpaceX. So not SpaceX, but Procter & Gamble. And then I also designed the Crest Sonicare mechanical toothbrush. This didn't sell as well, but the smaller toothbrush sold about 500 million copies, I think. I had early inspirations. These are my teachers. So this is my 2nd grade teacher, Miss Thompson, and this is my 5th grade teacher, Miss Wolf. And very simple things that they had done. This is, 40 years ago when I was in their class. But Miss Thompson simply taught me about planets, and Miss Wolf would allow me to draw pictures in class. So, I have special thanks to the teachers and inspirations early on. And even though one may not be a teacher, you can be an inspiration to folks that are younger than you or to other people. Another motivation that I had was the Concorde. So the Concorde flew from the 1960s through the early 2000s. I flew on this airplane in 2003, and I went twice the speed of sound. So it was Mach 2. I saved up money, and I spent most of my savings on the flight, but it was worth the trip. And then after this, I went to Stanford to study propulsion. Another inspiration was Virgin Galactic. So Virgin Galactic launched the first humans privately to space, and that was in September 29th of 2004. And then they also did it again in early October. I think it was October 13th or so of 2004. So they were the first company to do it. Ever since watching them, I was inspired to go to space. And at graduate school, I worked on hybrid rocket propulsion technology. It's actually called hybrid motor technology. And then this little picture down here is just a picture of what they call Spaceship 1, which took its flight. So the mothership is over here, and then the actual rocket is going straight up. Another inspiration is Anusha Ansari. She is the first Iranian astronaut to go to space, and she is also the first female private tourist to go to space. I chatted with her and I asked her how much would it cost to go to space in 10, 20 years. She said it would be about $20,000, but I paid much more than $20,000, so it wasn't quite that cheap. But like eventually, I think the price will come down. So she wrote these words, "Dream big," and I kept this printout, this picture. I kept it on my wall at school, and then I also kept it at work. And it reminded me to keep dreaming big. So I knew that if I wanted to go to space, I needed to make a lot of money and I needed to make connections. So I used that opportunity to start several different businesses. So I started, in addition to working full-time at my job, I also had 15 different side businesses over time. Almost all of them failed, but there were maybe 3 that did well, and then that's how I paid for my flight. It took me 18 years to save up my money. So after 18 years, I was able to go. Hopefully, you'll go sooner, either because you're smarter than I am, or also the price of space flight's coming down, or as the industry grows. So in my career, I have worked on hybrid rockets at Stanford. I contributed to 5 technical papers in space. I also started work at SpaceX in 2006 as an intern. So I am a very early employee. And then I've also developed a lot of analysis tools for the company, including this cheat sheet, which is used around the world. And then most recently, I have helped develop the Raptor 3 engine, which is going to help us get to Mars and the moon. This is the Merlin engine in the center, and that's what helps us get to the International Space Station. So these are orbital vehicles. So it's pretty high up. I'd like to talk about definitions. What is the definition of space? So there are various definitions. What the FAA, which is in the United States, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, they call space 50 miles, which is approximately 80 kilometers. So they've held that definition, and that applies to everybody that has done that since the 1960s. There's an international definition, which is 100 kilometers. It's a round number. It's called the Kármán line, but von Karman didn't pick that number. He proposed a number where if you put something in space, what is the minimum altitude it takes to stay in orbit for one orbit? And depending on the object you put in space, it ranges from 70 kilometers and it's all the way to about 105 kilometers, maybe 120 kilometers. So the definition varies, but in the US, this is the definition. And the View, so there's also Blue Origin that sends people to space. They go to about 105 kilometers. Virgin Galactic goes to approximately 88 kilometers. And then, but the View is about the same in chatting with folks. The other part is SpaceX also goes to space, and we send people to 400 kilometers to go to the space station. Most recently, we sent a mission with Jared Isaacman called Polaris Dawn. That went to 1,400 kilometers. So it's the furthest humans have been ever since we went to the moon. And I know that India is developing amazing technologies, and I have no doubt that they're gonna beat that. So my official designation, by the way, is space flight participant. So astronaut, it really applies to government people that work for the government. So yeah, just wanted to make that distinction. So people that pay for themselves to go, they're technically space tourists or space flight participants. So to prepare for this, I really only needed to spend 3 days to prepare to go to space. You don't need to prepare that much. And the physical requirements that are needed to do a suborbital flight, which is what I did. So suborbital means that you go up and then you come down. So that's a 10-minute trip. And then orbital flight means that you actually stay in Earth's orbit. Suborbital flight is, as I mentioned, 10 minutes. Orbital flight is 90 minutes. And typically people will stay up there for anywhere from 4 days to 2 years. Once you're in orbit, you're there for a long time. Now, the amount of energy it takes to get to orbit is approximately 40 times that of a suborbital flight. That's the minimum. And that's based on just doing potential energy plus kinetic energy calculations. And so suborbital is a lot easier to do. And it's actually, I think, more environmentally friendly if we're taking a look at having tens of thousands of people go. So I think it's a good thing to do. Now, to prepare, I did what's called a 0G flight. So with this, I'm in an airplane, and the airplane goes up at 45 degrees, and then it comes down at 45 degrees. And then the suborbital time is approximately 45 seconds. So you get approximately 25 to 45 seconds of weightlessness time. So you can see everybody here is pretending like they're Supermen, and then they're flying around. One interesting fact is that in the background, we have Dr. Cyan Proctor. She flew to space on a mission called Inspiration 4 back in 2001. She's a very, very nice lady, and she just happened to be on my flight. Now, a couple of years later, I also went on another 0G flight to get additional practice. The other thing that I did is I practiced flying an airplane. So I've spent about 40 hours practicing in a Cessna aircraft. And this was a very old airplane. So this is built in 1981. So I was always a little bit afraid of flying in the airplane. But it's a glider, so it should be pretty safe. I learned how to talk to the aircraft control. I learned how to control the airplane. I learned how to do emergency maneuvers and stalls, and it was very educational experience. Now, the very first solo flight that I had, which is the one where I fly by myself, I tracked my heart rate on my watch, and my peak heart rate was about 140 beats per minute. So just remember that number, and I'll show you my space flight. On my space flight, I'll also show you the heart rate. So it's kind of interesting. The other thing I did to prepare was to go into a high G simulator. So I went to a place called NASTAR, and it's made to train NASA astronauts as well as Air Force pilots. So I'm in this centrifuge, and then they rotate it around very, very quickly, and then they give me a tilt. And then as you can see in the right picture, I have to change my breathing depending on what the G level is. So they have a pretty picture. So they have like a visualization of what I'm going to see when I travel to space. And then they have the acceleration to simulate the rocket burn. And they also have the acceleration to simulate the entry. But what they can't do is they can't simulate zero gravity. That can only be done in free fall. So what you can see here is the number of G's that I pulled. So in the axial direction, which is in the what we call GZ direction, I'm pulling 4.3 G's maximum, and then through the chest, I am pulling approximately 2 G's. So if I were to combine these numbers, we're talking about roughly six G's or so, maybe up to 7 for very, very short durations. The actual space flight is 4.3 G's. So by doing this training, I am building my confidence that I'm able to do this. Now, what I had to do is, because the G loading was so high, I had to change the way I breathed, and I also changed how my muscles were. So I tensed my muscles in my legs. I tensed my stomach muscles. and then I lock the air in my throat for 3 seconds at a time during the highest G portions. That way, my brain is able to get oxygen. Under very, very high G loading, the blood will get drawn from your brain, and it can be difficult to see. So during this high G simulator, when I did not, do my muscle tensing or breathing, I lost about 90% of my vision for a short period of time. So everything went to like a tunnel. So instead of 170 degrees, I could only see about maybe 10 to 30 degrees. But once I practiced the breathing, then I didn't have that problem. Now, after that training, like a couple months later, I was now ready for my space flight. So this is the mission profile. And with the mission, I have a little picture of the airplane around here. Let me just get it real quick so I can show you what it looks. So I have so in case you can also see my video. This is what the plane looks like. It's a very kind of like small version of the plane. And what happens is that the plane will climb to 45,000 feet, which is about 15 kilometers, if I'm doing my math right. And then what happens is that the space plane, which is in between these, two small or these two large fuselages, the space plane will drop for about 1 second, and then the engines will fire and it will go into the boost phase. So here we have the mothership. The space plane gets released at 15 kilometers, and then we enter the boost phase. And then eventually we have what's called a feather that deploys. And then we have an apogee where it maxes out, and then we re-enter, and then it glides down back to Earth. Now, this rocket is powered by what's called a hybrid motor, and it contains nitrous oxide, which is the propellant. It's an oxidizer, similar to oxygen, but it has a little bit more oxygen in it. And then we also have a fuel grain. This fuel grain is similar to car tires. So car tires are made out of hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene. And there's a similar compound that they use for their engines. So what they do is they take this nitrous oxide, they have helium that pressurizes the nitrous oxide, and then it blows through a cavity inside of this fuel grain. There's a spark that lights, and then the grain converts itself from solid to gas. And when you have gas coming out, it expands and it pushes the engine forward as part of its propulsion system. So what you can see on the right is what the system looks like. So here you can see the fuel grain, and then the oxidizer tank is in the back here. The fuel grain is over here, and then you have a nozzle that provides propellant, or provides helps provide the thrust. This is a timeline of what the space flight looks like. So if you were to travel to space with Virgin Galactic or say another company, you will potentially get a call about 4 months ahead of time, and they'll ask you to get your physical exam to make sure that you're healthy, you don't have any, major issues. We think that probably about 95% of the population will be able to fly to space. So even if somebody has like a medical condition, it's okay because it's a relatively short duration. Now, if somebody wants to go to orbit, that's a very different thing, and that's a lot harder to do. So there's the physical exam, and then the flight date is set. And then I put myself on a diet and exercise regimen. So I exercised 3 times a week, and I stopped sugar intake, and I ate vegetables, very healthy diet. And so I ended up losing about 5 to 10 pounds. That way I could go higher, the vehicle would be able to go a little bit higher because it's weight sensitive. Because I lost a little bit of weight, that makes me more sensitive to the effects of G's, but most people don't even bother losing weight, so it's okay. You don't have to do that. 5 days prior to my flight, they fit the spacesuits, and then there was a welcome reception, and then there was a medical screening, and then we did what was called a simulator flight. So they basically flew us uh, in in stunt planes. So these are planes that are very, very maneuverable, and you can pull high Gs, and you can also pull negative Gs, and you can pull zero Gs for short durations of time. And then we also had many practice sessions to get inside and outside of the vehicle. And yeah, it was very good. And then finally, after all this training, I felt very prepared. I wasn't nervous. Really, like, even though you see 5 days, you only really need 3 days for all this training. And then we get up early in the morning, and then we fly to space. And then we're home, for about 48 hours afterwards. So the Virgin Galactic is run by Sir Richard Branson. He is a very fancy person, and he gave us very fancy things. This is the nicest hotel I've ever been in. It had 2 rooms. That was amazing to me. They had very, very good food. I'm not used to eating this food. I'm used to eating peas and potatoes and rice. So this is quite excellent. We each had a private room that we could get dressed in. So we came in civilian clothings, and then we eventually dressed into our spaceflight suit when we were inside this room. And funny story is that on the very last day, when I removed my name tag, I saw Sir Richard Branson's name on there because he had also flown to space, and he also shared this room. So I thought that was kind of fun that we had the same room. This is Spaceport America. This is the plane. So this is the space plane in the middle, and then these are the fuselages. The pilots are located over here, and this is just empty space. There are no pilots in this one, and it's unpressurized. They just have it to help balance out the weight. And then we have 4 engines on the vehicle. So this is me in the stunt plane, and I'm taking a selfie. And in the background is Spaceport America, which is where we're launching from. And this is the runway that we're going to be taking off in on the flight day. This right here is Nicola Pessil, who is an Italian pilot that flew us. This is my space suit. There's nothing really that special about the spacesuit other than it's very lightweight and it has lots of pockets. We don't have a helmet, we're already inside of a pressurized cabin, so there's no need for us to be in a pressurized suit. But we have what's called a maximum absorbent garment. That's the same thing as a diaper. So they gave us diapers just in case we had to go to the restroom. Nobody used it, but when you're in the mothership, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to get up to altitude. So, you have that option. They also have motion sickness pills that are hiding in your pockets. You can take it, and it'll help you get rid of any nausea. And then, we just have, some like a little water flask. We have communication devices so we can talk to one another. Yeah. These are airplanes that we had on the G Awareness Day. Now, because I had pilot training, they let me have the controls for a little bit, so I got to do some maneuvers in the plane. The pilot sat behind me. So the pilot with me was Jamil Janjua. He is a Canadian. He's of Canadian descent, and if you go back, I think he's actually from. I think he's from the kind of Pakistan, Punjab region, if I recall correctly. So it was kind of fun because on our flight, I think that was the first time that we had maybe somebody of Indian descent, which I am, and somebody that's, of distant Pakistani descent on there. So that was kind of like fun. And so, yeah, we mounted the airplane. Here you can see me, I'm really tensing as we're going on this very, very high speed turn. On this turn, we're going approximately, this is about 70 degrees. So I have my calculator here. That would correspond to roughly about 3 to 4 Gs. In fact, on this training mission, we pulled about 6 to 7 Gs. So we pulled quite a bit of Gs in preparation. And after that, I felt very, very comfortable with what I learned. These are the crewmates. So on the left here, we have Tuva. Tuva is from Turkey. He is a Turkish astronaut. He's preparing to go to orbit, hopefully one day. He served as a backup on a SpaceX mission. And then, of course, here I am. So you can see the United States flag on the top because I was born in the United States. And then I have the Indian flag to represent the country of my parents' origin, and also my own origin, and also my value system, and how I look, and everything else. So that was very important for me to have that flag on there. And Irving, he was originally from Israel. He moved to the United States, so he has United States on the top and Israel on the bottom. Yeah, he was a fighter pilot back in the day. He actually flies his own airplane, so he flew his private airplane to the spaceport. I thought that was really cool. I didn't fly a private space plane or private plane. I just took Southwest. I took the cheapest carrier I could get. This is Giorgio. Giorgio's from Italy. And he was an amazing individual. He works in real estate. And here we have Jamil Janjua, fantastic individual. And then we have Nicola Pessel, two absolutely extraordinary people. Both of these people work for the they have worked for the Air Force. They work for the Air Force equivalent of Top Gun. So they fly very, very fast aircraft. So they are very, very highly trained. This is a picture of the research that Tuva had done. So on this mission, we had flown scientific experiments for Purdue University and University of California, Berkeley, which are affiliated with NASA. And then Tuva flew some experiments. So he flew on his head is a it's like a it scans his brain. So like one of the
EEG.
effects.
Like EEG, like brain.
Yes, it's like
Okay.
it's like an EKG, for the brain.
Yes.
So it's like a neural scanner, and the idea here is they wanted to capture what is the overview effect like. So the overview effect is when you see the Earth, what is it that you experience, and then what does it feel like? So the other experiments that he did is he did some meditation experiments, and which is pretty exciting. And he also had done diabetic experiments. So he injected himself with insulin, and then he had some monitoring systems, because a lot of people have diabetes. We want them to fly to space too. So he was trying to show that if I don't think he had diabetes, but he was doing like an experiment to show that way more people could go. And there were some other experiments as well. Now I had an opportunity to fly payload. So as you can see here, I flew the India flag. So I had many small Indian flags that I flew. And then I also flew little Lego pieces. I flew sunflower seeds. So that way I could give it to a classroom to plant. Nothing's going to happen with the sunflower seeds. It was just more of like a fun thing to do. We were limited to 1 pound, or approximately half a kilogram. So I had to be very careful about what I flew. I flew the picture of Anusha Ansari. I flew a picture that I drew in my 5th grade class with Miss Wolf. I flew that picture. And then I flew a postcard that I had from the Concorde. I flew a little bit of money, and then sand. So this comes from White Sands. there's a place in the US where they have a lot of, sand that's very, very pretty. And of course, a picture of my parents when I graduated from college. That was one of the happiest days of my life. And then the most happiest day of my life was today, this day. So 0 hour, 9 a.m. I'll be high as a kite by then. So this comes from a song by Sir Elton John called Rocket Man. And that song was always inspirational. And then we played it that morning. So the people that worked at Virgin Galactic got up at 3 a.m. to load the propellant tanks. And they want the propellant to be very, very cold because when it's cold, it has higher density, which means higher performance. So they loaded, we all loaded up on the vehicle, or actually before we loaded up on the vehicle, we got out and we were surprised to see so many people. So there were 550 people, maybe 800 people, if you count online, watching and cheering us on. So we gave everybody high fives. And then Sir Richard Branson opened the door for me. He is very, very, very kind man. And he's very, very easy to talk to. So that was wonderful talking with him. And we loaded the plane, and we're all just so excited to fly to space. And then as we're climbing to altitude, we get to the terminal count. So we're at T-minus 4 minutes. And then it's T-minus 30 seconds. And you're like, okay, this is real. So I start tensing my muscles. And then T-minus 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release, release, release. And then they release it. So there is a metal bar that breaks, and then we drop. And when we drop, it drops very, very fast because the pilot has the yoke forward and we're diving down. So we're diving down away from the mothership, and the mothership is kind of like bouncing up a little bit because it's carrying a lot of weight, and then it just kind of pops up. And when we're dropping, it's an incredible feeling. It feels like my body and mind are somewhere above me, and we're disconnected. So my body's over here, and my brain and mind are somewhere up here. And is there a question?
No.
And so like less than a second later, the engine turns on. And then we have 70,000 pounds of thrust. So if I turn that over into metric units, so 70,000 pounds of thrust is 300 kilonewtons. So it's quite a push for this vehicle. And we experience 3 Gs, which is 3 times the Earth's gravity. So if I were to weigh 150 pounds, then when we're flying, multiply that by 3, now I weigh 450 pounds. And then you can see the pilots are all, they're concentrating very, very, very strong. And the next part is we start coasting, and we're in microgravity. So what you can kind of see here is once we get the clearance to unbuckle our seatbelts, we look out the window. That's the first thing we do. And then the next thing we do is Tuva has been doing his experiments. So what you don't see here is for about half a minute while we're looking out the window, floating around, he does his experiments, he completes it, and then he says, guys, I'm unstrapping. And then we all hold hands to celebrate. And then we go back to looking out the window. So you can kind of see that in space, we have freedom. We have freedom to, look out the window however we want. And, being in the US, I definitely admire freedom. And, from India is the largest democracy in the world. So it's, it's a wonderful thing to have. And the view was absolutely incredible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to describe what I had seen kind of like piece by piece. So, for this, I'm just gonna kind of like visualize, and then maybe I'll turn off the light right here so I can kind of think. Okay, so we're at we're at T minus 5 seconds. My muscles are tensed. 5, 3, 2, 1. Immediately, I feel that my body's disconnected, and then all of a sudden we feel this enormous thrust. And the G loading is high, but it's not uncomfortable. It feels like there's an invisible hand that's pushing on my body. And it feels very, very good. And it's very, very exciting. And everybody is cheering and exciting because you can hear the sound of the engine. And it sounds like a loud roar. So if you've ridden a motorcycle, it's kind of like pulling back on the motorcycle, and it keeps accelerating and accelerating, and you don't want it to stop. But either your motorcycle runs out of power, or you have to stop because you're gonna hit something. So in this case, the motor kept burning and burning, and it was just exhilarating, like a roller coaster ride. And then we're going horizontal for a little bit, and then we start arcing upwards. And then when we start arcing upwards, we start feeling G's go from through the chest and then through our head. Because as we're arcing, we start feeling the centripetal effect. So it's kind of like if you take a bucket of water with a string, and then you're twirling it around, your hand is pulling on the string to prevent the bucket from flying away. And that's the axial load. And you could feel the blood getting drawn from your brain, but it was just fine. It was very easy to do. And I was looking out the pilot's window, and it went from like daylight all the way down to pitch black. Like it was like nighttime. It went from like morning skies to nighttime in about 45 seconds or so. And the pilots were very focused on what they were doing. And then as we were going straight up, the G's dropped down to about 3 G's. So then it just went from axial and into the chest loading back into the chest. And the engine shut off. And when the engine shut off, you go from feeling very heavy, like 450 pounds, down to 0, because you're now weightless. And it feels like all the weight on the world that was on your shoulders, like all those years that I spent preparing for this journey and saving and failing and trying and convincing people that I need to be the person, for this flight. It was all done, because now we had achieved the full burn duration, because I was paying attention, like, please, achieve the full duration so we can exceed the 50-mile mark, so I could be considered a space tourist, and so we can see the Earth. And once we hit 0 G, once the engine turned off, the motor turned off, then I was like, okay, this is wonderful. And then the pilot gave the signal to unstrap. So he said something, I couldn't hear him, but I saw his thumb go like this, go up and down. And then I immediately looked out the window. And what I saw looking through the window was the most amazing thing and shocking thing I had ever seen in my life. And it was so shocking that I forgot what I had saw. And you can see it on the screen here. I got these pictures like several days after the flight. And one of my friends is a therapist. She works with people that are in the military. So I asked her, I was like, I have amnesia from my flight. Can you help me remember what I saw when I looked out the window? I remember everything else, but I just don't remember what I saw. And she said, yes. She told me, close your eyes. Now, as you looked out the window, how did you feel? And then immediately everything came back, because I went from being stuck in my head, feeling with my head, to feeling with my heart, and everything came back. And then what I saw was warmth. I saw energy. I saw brilliance. I saw life. I saw this warm glow from the Earth. I couldn't see the sun because that was on the other side of the spacecraft, but I could see the Earth, and the Earth was reflecting the sun's light. And it was so bright. The Earth was so bright that you couldn't see any stars. There was the moon that was in the lower part of the picture, and that was a little bit harder to see because it was a crescent moon. But you could see the Earth's atmosphere, and it was very blue. So it had kind of like a dark blue band along with a white blue band, and it was a very thin shell protecting this very big planet. And all we could see out of the window, even though we were very high up above the atmosphere, the Earth was so big that you couldn't see the entire thing. And even if you're on the International Space Station, you still cannot see the entire Earth because it's so big. So your brain kind of completes the picture, and then you realize how large it is and how magnificent that on the other side of this planet, there's India. There's most of my relatives are there. And then down below are my family who can't see me because I'm so high up, but I know they're down there. And you don't see any human-made structures. It's all just, Earth. So the Earth will be here, like it's been here a long time before us, and it'll be here a long time after us. But hopefully we're going to find other civilizations to travel to, and that's what SpaceX is going to do. Is that it's going to be it's going to allow for interplanetary colonization, and that's why I joined SpaceX. So to be part of this Virgin Galactic mission, which is different, it's separate from SpaceX. It was a wonderful experience, and it reminded me of why I'm doing this. So right here, this is my physiological response. Eventually, we had to come down, and then there was entry. So as we re-entered, I was doing, I was looking out the window. I did a little flip, and the pilot told us to get back on our seat. So the zero G time you can see right here is 1, 2, 3. It's about 3.5. We'll call it 3 to 4 minutes. And when we had to get back on our seat, I was okay with that because as I was looking at the Earth, I spent about 3 minutes looking at the Earth. I kind of absorbed everything I needed to absorb. I was not picking up any new information. So when it came time to go back in the seat, I was like, okay, no problem. I got my seatbelts back in. And I remember as I was trying to get the last buckle in, my head was getting very heavy. So it's like, why is my head getting very heavy? And also I heard this sound. It kind of sounded like a whistle, like a waterfall, like, shh. I was like, what's that sound? And so here's re-entry right here. And I realized what was happening is that as we were re-entering, the blue atmosphere that we passed was now slowing us down. So that rarefied gas was now slowing us down very dramatically, and it was decelerating us. So as it was decelerating us, I could feel the blood, getting drained from my brain. I forgot to do my tensing maneuver, and I could feel it. And I lost a little bit of vision, like things started to go a little brown, so like a little brown out, but it was a little bit slight. So I tensed my muscles and it all came back and it was just fine. And I remember looking out the window, and that waterfall sound was the sound of air. It's buffeting that was hitting the bottom of the vehicle. And we heard that, I feel like for 45 seconds. And it was like this amazing thing that the Earth saw us go up. Mother Earth saw us go up. And it said, you'll go up, but you'll eventually come back down, to me, because I'm your mother. That's, just like trying to make an analogy. But it helped guide us back down. And then we eventually landed. So this is the smoothest landing I've ever felt. And this video is taken by somebody that flew one of the stunt planes. And he and I actually worked together a long time ago at SpaceX together, and then he eventually joined Virgin Galactic. So it was kind of neat to see him there. Oh yeah, so my physiological response. So you can see that my peak heart rate here is about 140 beats per minute. So it's about the same as what it was when I was flying the airplane. No big deal. In fact, if I had done my breathing maneuver, it would have probably stayed closer to 130 beats per minute, which is about what you have whenever you run or whenever you exercise. And then so after we landed, Sir Richard Branson greeted us, and it was a very wonderful time. And my family was there to say hello. My mother was very proud. I was so happy that she was there to see the event. And it was a wonderful experience. And then we had an award ceremony. So people from all over the world came. This is one of my sisters, and then my mother and Sir Richard Branson, and it's just a great time. And I also got to meet a real astronaut who went to the International Space Station with Anusha Ansari back in 2006. So that was really cool. Yeah, and the next morning, I happened to run into Sir Richard Branson, and he invited me to breakfast. So we chatted about rockets, and we chatted about space planes and the future of space flight. So the lessons that I learned was that in addition to discovering space, I found myself in the journey. It's been even though I've come across as very, very calm. It was a very difficult journey to get to this level. I've gone through many challenges in life. So when I was very young, my father became very ill. So we had to do things to help take care of the family, to help take his space, and then until he got back to health. And then challenges as you go through life, just like and many of you have, and that's what makes you. And it's because of those challenges that I was able to, I think, get this flight, because you've developed the skills. And then working towards a mission statement, I found that extremely helpful. So in my spaceflight suit, I actually wrote down my mission statement. So my mission statement is to further humanity through innovation and space propulsion. So whenever things get difficult at work, I remember, okay, I am here to help get humanity to space. I am here to help humanity colonize other worlds. And when I was at Procter & Gamble, my mission was, I'm here to make people healthier. I'm here to make products that people enjoy using. So when I was making toothbrushes, I wanted people to enjoy brushing their teeth and then have fewer cavities. So no matter what people do in their life, there's always a way to turn it into something positive and help you through the times. The other thing is that I want to improve my intuition as a SpaceX engineer. So like I work on Raptor, which is the world's leading methane liquid oxygen engine. So I'm an analyst, and I have to use a lot of imagination to do what I do. So I have to visualize like what are our engines going to experience? In fact, next Monday, which will be, I think, next Tuesday for you, we're going to have like a big Starship launch, and I'll be going to Starbase to go be part of that. And this journey has helped me visualize what these engines will experience. So there's ascent loading, there's entry loading, there's G loading, there's vibration loading. For somebody else, if somebody is more people-oriented, maybe they're into psychology or maybe they're into business, if they go on their flight, they will experience something completely different than I will. And that's so beautiful that we all experience different things. And then I have a better sense of cosmic scale, how large the universe is. The Earth is this big, big ball, but it's in a much, 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 much bigger universe. So when I looked out there, space is vast and it's lonely. It's very, very large. And the Earth was, as big as it is, it was kind of alone. And the moon was very far away. So we need to, develop technology to get to other places. We also need to take care of our planet and make sure we're environmentally friendly so we can protect what we have. I'm more calm and peaceful. I used to be very, worried about all the details. Now I'm okay. I'm a little bit more peaceful and zen. I have an enhanced bond with humanity and the planet around me. My greatest joy led up to the flight. Like the happiest day of my life was the space flight. But the other happy moments were in the moments leading up to the flight, and also moments after the flight where I get an opportunity to talk to you and other folks around the world. There's many ways that one can simulate feeling this. And if you go to YouTube and you type in space meditation, you'll get, or space imagery meditation, you'll find many ways to do this. And then tips for your journey is that any altitude is attainable with the right attitude. So if you believe strongly in something, then you'll be able to achieve it. And not everybody may be able to make it to space, but they'll be able to do something equivalent. So for me, that was my biggest dream. For other people, they may have many other different dreams, whether it's having a large family or becoming a professor or starting their own business or helping people in the hospital. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it with the right attitude. Whether or not you think you can or you can't, you're right. So if you tell yourself that you can, then you're more likely to accomplish your goal. And chance favors a prepared mind. So when I got the phone call of, hey, there's an opportunity to fly to space sooner, would you like to be considered? I said yes, and I gave them all the reasons why I wanted to go and why I would be able, why I felt I would be good for the role. And because I was prepared and I showed them that I was extremely prepared, they felt that this would be the right thing to do. The other thing is focusing on your top 3 goals. There are many things that one can do in life, but if you focus on your top 3 things, then you can have a higher probability of completing it. And the other thing that you may want to do is surround yourself with the people that you want to be like. So find the people that are successful and you're like, okay, I want to be like that. Make sure you surround yourself with that. Take self-development classes. Most people spend a lot of money to go to school. People will also spend money to get skills, but not many people spend a lot of money on self-development classes. So this is where you learn about yourself. The fastest way to grow is to learn through the mistakes of others. And sometimes you can do this by growing up faster. And I go through a lot of self-development books, so I recommend that. And choosing a healthy lifestyle. And then, after your space flight, I would recommend isolating yourself and journal what you had saw, thought, and felt. And because like after your space flight, other people are going to talk about what they experienced, and it may be different from what you experienced. And so you want to make sure you record that all yourself. And then find a few days where you can go see the Milky Way, where you can look up at the sky and dream. It's so important to dream. Even after my space flight, I recognize how important imagination is, and it's very important to be able to do that. So I'll share a quick video of my experience. Okay, and so let me stop sharing, and then let me share again. So I have the audio, share sound. Okay, great. Riding a rocket, that feeling was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. You can see me sitting up in front of my seat. I'm reliving the moments. Yeah, it was magical. Things started getting really real at L-4 minutes. And once we were about 90 seconds away from being dropped, I could feel this energy and excitement. I gave a little hand gesture to the screen, love Virgin Galactic. Minus 30 seconds, I tensed up my body and was just prepared, getting myself prepared mentally. And then at 5 seconds, then I was okay, I'm fully engaged, I'm ready for this to handle the drop, and my hands are down here grabbing. And then there's the release.
3, 2, 1. Release. Fire,
and it's the most incredible feeling. I've been on a lot of roller coasters, and there was no comparison. We can see it go from, blue to darker blue, and then eventually to black. And yeah, it all just tied together perfectly. We proceeded into the gamma turn, and you could feel the acceleration change direction. All of a sudden, we went from being under high G loading to just nothing. We were given the signal to unbuckle, and I did. The sensation of floating was amazing. I felt we had so much time to do what we wanted to do. Float above my seat and look out the window and then like rotate about the window. And I think one of the highlights was when Tuva said, okay, unstrapping, and then we all held hands and reached out for each other, because this was like really a mission. Having science being performed on the mission made us feel so much more prouder to be a part of it. I felt like I stood a little bit taller. It was really a highlight of the mission that we're furthering science and we're exploring space. By going on this flight and participating and providing emotional support to Tuva and then also the scientists that are working on the payloads, this mission helped me accomplish really my goal for like 15 years. It's this story that I have for myself that I can daydream about over and over. It's stuff that I can share with others forever and then encourage them hopefully to take their own trip to space. I mean, it feels like I'm in a dream. Okay, great.
Awesome.
And yeah, so I'll share. I think that's pretty much it. So that was the last slide. I'm happy to entertain any questions. I talked for a long time, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was so awesome. I have taken many podcasts, Andy, but in this podcast, I think I was zoned out, spaced out. I don't know what to say, but every moment that you were saying, every word that you were sharing from your space flight, right? It was as if we were following you, we were into your experience of that. First of all, thank you for making us feel. Because in Happiness Center, we say, unless you feel what the other person is saying, you won't be shifted to the next dimension. You won't be pulled by the inspiration. The inspiration has to make you feel that. First of all, thank you for that. I'm sure everybody in the audience also would be feeling the same kind of feeling that what he was trying to convey his thing. And that was so awesome, Andy, when you closed your eyes and you said, let me close my eyes and let me make you feel what I was thinking. So you put the light off, and that was again a refreshing experience for me to see how people can make other experience by themselves closing their eyes and explaining the person. Thank you for that also. So now, since this being a amazing moment so far, we have many questions for you lined up, Andy, regarding not just technical, but majorly the personal part about how to inspire, how to get from this experience of yours to a layman person, a student of different program, may not be defense or space. There are some people who have joined us from the space department, defense department, who must be watching here. They are sending us some questions also. I will take a mix of those questions from those different people. And audience, if you have some questions, you can also put up in the chat box. We will keep a track of that. And Mr. Andy has said he would be keeping a track also of those questions. So my team also would be taking a track if somebody have a questions on the chat. My first question to you, Andy, is, since you are one of the very few Indians who have traveled to space, and I would just want to relate the happiness of the space that you have made us experience. Is it, you said you become more peaceful, you become more humanitarian. So since that day in the month of June till now, how the shift has grown up of your peacefulness, of your new form, new ND 2.0, something like that, if I say.
I think the shift happened for three reasons. One is I had worked so many years, like a couple of decades, toward this goal, and then now that I had it, it was like, okay, this is done. And there was kind of like a little sadness that came, like maybe a few weeks afterwards. It's like, okay, well, what do I do next? You know, there's a kind of a vacuum. And so it took me about 3 months, and I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, I need to be doing something. And so it was a combination of like peace and not peace. And then I realized that, this is part of the journey, and my brain is going to come back to equilibrium, and it did. And so I think after about 2 to 3 months, everything just became serene. I haven't been this calm and happy in a long time. Even when work gets extremely challenging, it's a very intense environment. that I still find a way to stay peaceful, because when I like, if I need to, I can close my eyes and I'm like, there's the earth and everything was great. Like time just stood still. That was like one aspect. Another aspect is seeing the earth and having that kind of connection with humanity, seeing something new for the first time. It was so new and so extraordinary. I feel that there are other ways of experiencing that as well. I remember taking, although I studied mechanical engineering and aerospace, I took a material science class, and I learned about what happens in metals. So like metals have little grains, like little cell structures. And I saw the universe in a very different way, and it completely changed my perspective on things. And then biology. And then later I took a class on human potential or psychology. And so all of those are profound. So I wouldn't say it's limited to going to space, but I definitely felt it because I had a strong connection with space. And I would say the third thing is people seem to be quite excited about the experience, and because for me it was exciting, and when they're exciting, they're also excited. That's a wonderful thing, and it brings me so much joy when people can feel what I'm feeling. Um, and so yeah, it's wonderful to share.
Okay. Andy, Virgin Galactic being a Richard Branson company, and since you had an opportunity to meet him, interact with him, have a breakfast with him, and he opening a door for you while you were going for the flight, and many things happened. Uh, do you want to share something which a normal person like students or somebody who might not have seen that part of his life or that part of his personality, which is so inspiring that you have still not able to forget or you cherish it? Anything you have found?
Sure, yeah. It's funny because like Sir Richard Branson and I had breakfast on a Sunday, and then I took a few days off, and then I went back to work at SpaceX on a Saturday or on a Friday, and then Elon happened to be passing by, and they're very different people, Elon Musk and Sir Richard Branson. So Elon Musk is a technical genius, and he's very good at making things efficient. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have Sir Richard Branson, who is a people genius, maybe a little bit less technical oriented. He gets it done when what he needs, but he's an absolute people genius. He remembers people's names. He is able to read people. He's extremely intelligent. He has extremely good memory. And he has a diverse set of interests, and he does a lot of reading. So yeah, I was quite impressed with him. He's a very busy person, but I found him very amicable.
So you mean to say he's a people genius and Elon is a tech genius kind of a
Yes.
thing. So any tip that you have? You said how to be a people genius. He remembers everybody's name. He remembers many things and he can connect very fast. Something like that. You mean to say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're both very, very good at their things. I think like if a person is trying to figure out how do they, if they're looking to emulate somebody that has accomplished something large in terms of companies or organizations, then a good model that I think is helpful is looking at DISC, which is like the four personality quadrants. It's an approximate way of looking at personality types. It's not perfect, but it's an approximation where you have dominance, influential, steadfast, conscientious, and people are all made in a different way. And the emphasis is that one shouldn't try to be like something completely different. They should have a firm footing in where they are, and be very, very, very good at where that is. And they should be able to like pivot so they can talk to different people. So they're able to communicate with people in different personality quadrants. So they may be very good, like a conscientious, somebody in the conscientious group is very analytical, but they may have a difficult time selling a vision because they don't show as much emotion. But if they practice by self-development talks, then they can pitch something to anybody for a win-win situation.
Okay. I have something to share. Let me share my screen. 1 second. Can you all see that, everybody?
Yes.
Andy, can you see this? Everybody
Yes.
can? Okay. So I'm just sharing the Indians whom we know from this part of the world who has gone to the space. Rakesh Sharma, the first one. Kavita Chawla, Sunita Williams, Shrisha Bandla, Raja Shari. And since we have you, I just wanted to share one special video of Rakesh Sharma when he was in space, and our Prime Minister of the time, Indira Gandhi, had a chit chat from that live space station. I'm just playing that short video. What question she asked, and then I'll come back to you.
ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है आपको?
जी मैं बगैर किसी झिझक के कह सकता हूँ कि सारे जहां से अच्छा।
So one question was asked by Indira Gandhi to Rakesh Sharma, how India looks from above. So if the same question would have been asked to you, anything you want to say, first statement, what first statement came to your mind, Andy? What first thought came to your mind?
Well, the first three words I said, and I don't usually say this, but the first three words that came out of my mouth were, "Oh my God." Like
Okay.
the earth, it was just so beautiful, so magical that the universe could give this to us. Like the atmosphere is protecting us. We have the opportunity to, work together around the globe. I mean, we have water, we have land. Everything was just fantastic, like magical.
The magical one. Oh my God. So that's the three words that you said it in your mind.
Supreme.
Okay. Just a quick video I'm just playing.
You know, all our lives we're looking down on our phones, we're looking down at the streets where we're driving to, and we never look up.
I'm most excited about looking at the Earth, getting the overview effect, and it provides perspective.
It will allow us to understand some of the basic human physiology we were never able to understand before.
From the moment I arrived over here, I thought I'm already in space, floating.
Today's flight is an international research mission, as well as a private astronaut journey. You're here today for VSS Unity's last commercial flight. It is the largest crowd to join us for a launch since Unity 22. Enjoy. Now on to Galactic 7.
Are you guys ready?
Oh yeah.
It's time? Okay, we're going to follow me out to the nose of the ship, all right?
Thank you so much.
Good luck, guys.
All the preparation I've done ever since I was little, it all adds up, and all of it has built up to this moment.
Release, release, release. Fire, fire. Welcome to space.
My God, it's stunning.
Cabin, you're clear to strap.
Coming in on a perfect glide slope, 500 feet above the field. Once again, Virgin Galactic returning new astronauts.
Andy, she is your daughter? I can't hear you. Maybe you're on mute.
Oh yes, she's my daughter.
What's her name?
Her
To
name
planet
is
Earth.
Okay.
Concluding VSS Unity's final space mission, paving the way for the next.
So now the question, whenever in India, a father or mother goes out of the home for a long time, and when they come back, the children ask, Dad, what gift you got for us? So you went out of space. So did your daughter ask, Dad, what you brought for me?
She did. During the award ceremony, she seemed kind of sad because I was getting a lot of attention and she wasn't. She's usually getting attention. And then she was ignoring me. And then eventually I found her and I was like, I got you a special necklace. and it had her name on there, and I gave it to her, and then she was happy. So
Okay.
I flew a necklace for her, and then I gave it to her.
Okay, because I think you showed us a screen in which you had shown what payload you have taken along with you. You have taken some money, one currency note also. Did you shop something on the air in the space? It was you had a currency memorable, something
Oh
like that,
yeah,
a
yeah,
dollar
yeah.
note.
It was just like a $5 bill. So it's like
Okay,
a kind of a maybe
a mem
$5 could buy you like a case of Limcas or a case of Thumbs Up.
Okay,
And then I also flew sand. So like I've been bottling up the sand and then giving it
okay,
away
okay,
because if you count like there are more stars in the universe than there are sand particles on Earth. So it's kind of like symbolic.
okay. I will request my co-panelists and students who would like to ask a question. Maybe they can put up the screen on and then they can ask a question. Nimish, Snehal, anybody? You can put the screen on.
Hello, sir. Hello, Andy. Uh, my first question is this: that did you miss the spacewalk, and in future endeavors, are you planning?
I think his voice is not some lag. So he just said, "Okay, are you missing spacewalk? And how long is your plan for having a spacewalk mission, something like this?"
Oh, I see. Yeah. So there was a spacewalk that was on Polaris Dawn recently. And that was pretty extraordinary. Uh, my future goals are to go to space again. So I would like to take another suborbital flight. And then I would love to do an orbital flight at some point. So my dream would be to also do a spacewalk, similar to the astronauts that go into orbit, and maybe even walk on the moon. So, if folks in the audience want to do that, I would like to do that too. Right now, I don't have any immediate plans, but right now it's a dream. I'm just focusing on doing the best job I can at work so I can help others do it. And if I can help others do it, then maybe I'll get a chance to do it.
Okay. Anybody else has next question? Anybody? Okay. Andy, now if I say for the young people who are following you as a space inspiration, and if they have to follow your footstep, is there any particular advice that you would like to give to them, to the students who are listening to you or who will listen to you after the podcast is recorded and stored and shared globally? Anything you would like to say to them?
Sure. Gosh, I hope nobody follows my exact same footsteps because everybody has their own path.
Yes. Yes.
If I were to give advice, it would be to like in school, there's a lot of emphasis on going through the subject matter, but just making sure that you understand the subject matter. So like when you do the theory, make sure you do it in practice. And the other part is don't be afraid to fail. Like failure is part of it. The more times that you fail, the greater the likelihood you'll succeed. Another one is to whatever subject you're interested in, I would recommend reading up more on that, like doing additional research. And then one other one is reading self-development books. So there are many that are available. The most recent one that I remember going through was called The Making of a Manager. So I'm a manager and it helps me become a better person. It's got many different aspects. And limiting the amount of TV time. There's so many amazing things that you can do. Make a positive difference to other people. The more people that you can help, then the greater value you can bring to humanity.
Okay. Andy, there are many people I have seen, not just children, but even the adults. They fear the climbing the mountain or going to near the space. Even if I say the flights, they fear the catching the flights. So since you have gone to the space which is far beyond that normal thing, is there anything you would like to tell those people how to overcome those fear of space? Because the bigger the space, they are having claustrophobia is a small sense, but then a flight fear is a different fear. So how to overcome those kind of fear? Anything you would like to advise them?
Sure, yeah. So the first thing is that fear is it's a natural part of our body. It's normal. Fear keeps us alive. In the olden days, it keeps us alive away from predators. But now that we're in the 21st century, it's a lot easier to have food and shelter, and it's called Maslow's hierarchy. So we've got food and shelter taken care of, and at the very, very top, we have, it's the very peak. We can worry about doing our dreams and ambitions. And what can happen are artificial things that make us stop. So there's one way to get around the fear of flying is exposure therapy. So you could close your eyes and visualize, pretend that you're in an airplane, or you could watch a video on airplanes, or you could have like a picture of a airplane cockpit on your wall. I chatted with one of the pilots who flew us to space, and he would have like a picture of the cockpit, and he would imagine that he's flying it and close his eyes and visualize. So that's another way to do it. So there's exposure therapy, and then I think that the last thing is think about why you're flying. Like, what is on the other side of the flight, or the other side of the rainbow, or the other side of what's the dream that you're trying to achieve?
Okay. So exposure therapy, the more they have to imagine, the more they have to carry something which reminds them of the fearlessness. Do you know somebody, astronaut, whom you know from the biography or something, who was having a space fear, but now is an astronaut? Do you know somebody?
Yes. Garrett Reisman. He worked at SpaceX for a while. One of the things that he mentioned in a YouTube video, and I believe he said this, was that he had a fear of heights. So despite his fear of heights, he was doing a spacewalk and working on, I believe it was like the International Space Station, or something on the space shuttle, and he just concentrated on the task. So he's like, okay, I'm going to do I'm going to do step 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what I know to do, and then I focus on the next task. So he was focused on the task, and that kept him away from the fear of heights, and it just kept him concentrated on the job.
Okay. Now we would like to move on to the next section, Andy, which is called as a rapid fire, or as I said, cool fire, the cool fire session. So it would be like a small statement, and then you have to think less and then respond from the gut, or you can say the feel.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Aliens aside, if you had to share a spaceship with any fictional character, who would it be and why?
I would love to share a spaceship with Captain Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek. He'd be fun to talk to.
Okay. Being away from the Earth, did you experience any craving for something very earthly, like a grass, rain, maybe a good cup of chai? Did you had a craving for something for those 10 minutes of the flight that you said it, or it was all lost in the experience?
I would say it's lost in the experience, but if I had to do it again, then I most likely would want a cup of chai.
Oh, wonderful. The space selfies, they're hard to resist or surprisingly tricky in zero gravity. Were you feeling that because you have shared one photograph of the Earth that you have clicked up? So was it hard to resist to take the photograph, or you would like, what was that?
So the good thing is that they told us that we're not allowed to bring our phones. So they had cameras mounted around the vehicle. The picture that you saw of space was taken by the pilot. So we just concentrated on looking out the window.
Okay. And I think they were on 14 windows. You said it, 14 windows. And that's
Yes, there were somewhere between 14 to 18 windows. There were lots of windows.
Okay. Did you have any wild, out of this world dream while you were up there? Or was it hard to sleep at all while you came back? What was?
I definitely had a hard time sleeping the night before.
A night
I did
before.
not sleep. And then the night after, I had a hard time sleeping as well because I was so excited and I was writing down thoughts and chatting with people that I only got 2 or 3 hours of sleep. But yeah, my brain was processing the experience, just reliving it.
Okay. Whose approval was the most difficult one to give you the approval? Okay, you can go to space. Your daughter, your wife, or your parents? Which was difficult to get it or to convince them?
I would say probably myself. I had to convince myself because once I convince myself, then I can convince everybody.
Okay.
So fortunately, I had a long time to do that.
Okay. Did you have a spacewalk playlist, or like were you allowed? Were you listening some songs while you were there in the space? Some songs were getting played in the cockpit.
Well, that's a great question. We didn't have any songs while we played in space. We just kind of like stayed present with the experience.
Okay.
However, there were many, many songs that we listened to in the days leading up to it. And there were many songs I listened to the days afterwards. So that was Rocket Man by Elton John, Supersonic Rocket Ship by the Kinks. And then there was a song called Spacewalk by, I think it's called Lemon Jelly. Those were fun.
Okay. We will play this song Sir Elton John. Imagine you could send a message to Earth visible from space, as if you were flying in the space and you have to beam one message to the Earth. What would your cosmic billboard say?
Hold hands.
Hold
Meaning
hands.
like everybody get along. Yeah.
Okay. Gravity versus zero gravity. Which one makes you feel more like you?
Oh, I would have to say zero gravity.
Zero
You
gravity.
feel so free. You could do anything up there.
Okay. Okay. If there is one life lesson space has taught you that Earth couldn't, what it would be?
It taught me that the joy is definitely in the journey. That, you know, just because you achieve everything that you've wanted in life doesn't make life happily ever after. You actually have to work towards that, and you can do it with the right mindset.
Okay. Thank you for this having this cool fire session. I have something to play for you. Let me share my screen once again.
Line 3.
Hello.
Hi.
Have you ever thought about going into space, Richard?
What we are playing, audience and Andy, a question was asked to Sir Richard Branson in one of the interview. Have you ever thought of going to space? So the idea was this video is what seeded inside Branson. That was a video that we have found, luckily.
Line 3.
Hello.
Hi.
Have you ever thought about going into space, Richard?
The moon landing was a catalytic moment for me. I remember my dad taking me outside onto the village green and we just looked up at the moon. I really did think that myself and many other young people would one day be able to go into space. I waited and I waited and waited for that opportunity, and it never came. They got me thinking. I went to the registry office and I registered the name Virgin Galactic Airways.
It's a brilliant innovation story. The origins of spaceflight at the time, it was big government. The X Prize was a chance to turn that into a much more personal spaceflight experience.
Spaceship One claimed the X Prize and proved the dream was possible. This was the first private venture to go to space, return safely, and do it again just 2 weeks later.
And then from there, we just started expanding. We knew we wanted a bigger system. We wanted something that you could float about the cabin, actually experience zero gravity.
Virgin Galactic offers the first real platform.
So the idea for playing this short playlist was just to say to the students and the people who are watching that if somebody asks you a wild question, maybe it might become your dream, that maybe it might become your passion. So this is just to share that moment which inspired even Richard Branson. I don't know what has inspired the audience or what will inspire the audience, but I'm sure this video, this podcast, this session that we are doing with legendary Mr. Andy Sadhwani will definitely put a seed of thought, seed of passion inside you, just like it did that. I remember, Andy, we have spoken last time on this photograph that you have shown us last time, if you remember. When you showed me, Nitin, I have this luxury cars, I have this, and I asked Andy, why are you showing me? And then you said it, Nitin, I used to had it, and I thought these would have given me happiness, but they don't give you happiness anymore. And I think you said it, K, you sold many of them, and you gave it to some kind of an NGO for child education, for women education. You said something like that. So that okay. So now we go to the next session, next section, if I say, Andy, where I will just share first thing to you. The previous people who have come before you, there were a few chairmen, there were a few technical people like we have from different companies, spiritual people have come. The idea is this, we ask them to put a question for our next speaker. So they don't know who is coming next after them. So the person who was just before you in the podcast was on the right side, Mr. Rajiv Vasudevan. He is the managing director of Apollo Ayurved Hospitals. So he was the person who came just before you. I would be playing a question that he has left for you for the next speaker. And I would like if you can just answer that question and we will transfer your answer to him.
Sure. Now you have to ask a question for our next speaker. And we don't know at this stage, like the last time, who that person could be. He could be from India, from abroad.
You can hear the question easily? Voice coming? Okay.
To you. Now you have to ask a question for our next speaker. And we don't know at this stage, like the last time, who that person could be. He could be from India, from abroad. So one question from your side to the next speaker.
See, today, most corporations are driven by profit, revenue, growth, and such parameters, and what is the next quarter's performance? What do I answer to the stock exchange? In such a competitive world, how do you balance something which is of value to society? When I say society, it is your customers, it's your employees, and it is the public at large. So whether there's an environmental impact of what I do, there is a personal financial impact on my customers. How do I balance performance versus social relevance and social impact? And what guides your decisions in this regard is the question I would like to ask my next speaker.
So that was the question. So I would like you to just take up this question and whatever relevance it has for your perspective, you can please go ahead.
Okay, sure. I think that's a great question. Companies, I think, can be maybe overly focused on profits. I would say the most important thing is what is the vision of the company and how rapidly is the company progressing towards that vision. The profit will automatically follow if the product is in alignment with what humanity, society wants. So in addition, the people that want to work for the company will stay there through high and low as long as they are in line with the vision. So I would say as long as the company is working towards high ideals to attract top talent, that's very important. And the other thing that the company should do is try to develop products that will put themselves out of business. So they think of a new product that will put their existing product out of business, and then that's how they can keep growing and not worry about the what Wall Street or what the shareholders are saying. Just focus on doing things well. I think the shareholders, there's revenue and all these other things, but it's more important that are they accomplishing the goal?
Okay. So, Mr. Rajiv, I would be passing on this answer from Mr. Andy SADHWANI to you for the question that you have asked. Now, Andy, I will leave this space for you to ask a question for our next speaker. So, you don't know who would be that person. You don't know which country, what profession they would be. In case you would like to leave one question for the next speaker, I will pass on your question to that next speaker. Any question that you have in your mind.
Okay, great. My question would be, how many resources should we allocate to making life interplanetary? So that would be colonizing the Mars, or the moon, or distant moons of Jupiter or Saturn. So that'd be my question.
Okay.
What percent of the gross domestic product of the nation should be dedicated towards that?
Okay. Okay. I will ensure I will be passing on the answer of this question to you once we have the next speaker, and whatever he replies, I'll surely get back to you. Okay, so now we are reaching to the end of the session. I'm sure the audience must be having goosebumps listening to you and hearing about you and what has gone into your persona because of this experience of space flight. Before we end up, we would like you, Andy, to give one message to our worthy audience, students, maybe kind of take-home message from your side, and then we will end up with one surprise for you.
Sure. I think that so thank you everybody for attending. It really means a lot. It's so wonderful to share the experience with you, and please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear about your successes and how I can help you. I think the biggest takeaway that I have is that any altitude is attainable with the right attitude.
I love this punchline of yours, K. Every altitude is achievable, just keep the right attitude. Thank you, Andy. And now is the moment for a token of gratitude from MIT University Center for Science of Happiness for our special guest, Andy SADHWANI. Andy, we are a little creative or different level. So we are not putting up a memento virtually like the people do a kind of award or something like that. We have something more than special, which is, I'm sure it will be more worth it. I'm putting up my screen. We have created a song dedicated to you only, and we will be putting that screen and the song with the lyrics also on the screen for your cherish.
Thank you.
1 second.
Sure.
Hope you enjoy it.
In the vast skies where dreams did soar, you paved the path, opened the door. With virgin galactic, you reach new heights, guiding us forward to the stars so bright. To the stars we rise, together we fly, with Indian flag lighting the sky. From Amity University, our wishes ascend. of space, dreams come alive. Bold and unyielding, humanity thrives. Andy SADHWANI, you've led the way, inspiring us all to reach out and play. Inspiring us all to reach out and play. For every young heart with wandering light, you've shown that the stars are within our sight. With gratitude and pride, we honor you here. Honor your wishes, warm and sincere. So here's to you, our hero, our guide. In the heavens above, where dreams abide. From Amity we send the song with pride. Honoring your courage, we get inspired, and our dreams learn to ride.
Wow, that was I said my space flight was the best day of my life. I think maybe this is this is
Thank you.
the nicest thing that that anybody's ever done for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Very honored.
Thank you. We are glad that you loved this memento,
Oh, yeah.
heartful memento from Amity University students to you, and for your all courage that you have shown to the space mission. Thank you once again. And let's conclude the session. As we conclude this inspiring session, I extend heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Andy SADHWANI for taking us on this extraordinary journey today. Your experiences, Andy, have not only sparked curiosity, but have planted the seeds of ambition and resilience in all of us. You have shown us the path to space is not only You have shown us that the path to space is not only paved with rigorous training and immense dedication, but also filled with wonder and pursuit of our boldest dreams. A special thank you to our visionary leaders, Honorable Dr. Atul Chauhan, Honorable Chancellor of Amity University, and Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Amity University, whose encouragement and vision enable us to dream big and aim higher. Under their guidance, Amity University Center for Science of Happiness stands committed to enhancing the happiness and well-being of students, faculty, corporates, and the broader community. With initiatives like this that foster intellectual growth, inspiring sessions, resilience, and joy, we are confident that our students, our Amitians, are poised for greatness, possibly even reaching the stars. As you all know, today is coincidentally the Children's Day, 14th of November, celebrated in the memory of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who championed the dream and aspiration of young minds. We are sure that the inspiring session with Mr. Andy SADHWANI, Principal Aerospace Engineer and Space Traveler with Virgin Galactic and working with various wonderful firms, had inspired many minds and ignited many hearts and minds. We look forward to welcoming you again, Andy, perhaps at Amity University on campus and in person. We hope to see you again. And on behalf of Amity University and Reiki Foundation Center for Science of Happiness, thank you, Andy, and thank you to everyone who have joined us today. Here's to the dreaming big and reaching for the stars. Safe travels, and see you all on the next adventure. Thank you to all of you who have joined for this session. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Andy, once again.
Thank you.
And thank you to Department of IT who coordinated this Zoom session. Wonderful audience that we have who have asked the question, and my co-panelists, my students, Snehal, Himansh, Himish, and everybody else who are here. And stay happy, stay blessed, and keep making this world a better and a happier place. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andy, once again for joining this. And we hope to see you sometime very soon on Amity campus. Thank you so much.